Welcome to Key Conversations, a Making It in the Music Business podcast. My goal for this podcast is to help you learn from these conversations with both experts and working musicians and serve as a guide to assist your career in the process. I'm your host, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. Let's get going. Hello. Today I am so excited to have the queen of merch here. Is it okay if I call you that? This is Vanessa, and I want to say your name right, Ferreira.
Mm-hmm.
Ferrer. There's no A at the end. Vanessa Ferrer of Merch Cat. Thank you for taking time to be here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
So we're going to talk all about merch and why it's important and how Merch Cat itself works. But first, I always like a little personal insight. How did you get interested in merch for musicians? That's such a very specific company to start. So where did that come?
Tell me. I ask that question a lot.
Yeah.
So, and I always try to make it quick because it's not really. I mean, it's kind of a long story, but I'll make it as short as I can. I was probably a creative person trapped in another person's body for the bulk of my career. Music was always a thing for me. I just never really knew what to do with it because where I grew up, kind of being in a band was not like cool. And I wanted to be with the cool people, like back in high school and stuff in Staten Island in the 80s. It was like Guidettes, Guidos and Guidettes. And
oh my God.
It was kind of, I was always like wanting to like hang out with the rockers, but like trying to be with the cool people and kind of just stuck in the middle. So I went along and I wanted to be originally a fashion designer. And my dad was like, you get good grades. You're not going to be a fashion designer. You're going to be something, secure, like a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. And my mom was in the financial industry and in the automotive industry. And so I was like, okay, I'll become an accountant. So lo and behold, I went and got my degree, got my CPA license, wanted to blow my head off the whole entire time, during college, always feeling like I was never doing what I was meant to be doing with my life. Eventually got out of working in accounting firms and doing taxes and auditing to working in private industry and worked in the commercial real estate industry. There, I was the fund controller for a real estate investment fund. And then I ended up going to grad school for commercial real estate. And while I was in grad school, I met a guy in a band while I was skiing in Vermont. And that band, it was a cover band, but the band that he was, the original band that he was with was releasing a record, and we stayed in touch. And when the record came out, I started asking him all of these questions, like what radio station are they pitching to? Like what, how are they marketing it? Like, are you guys going to go on tour? And like, I had no idea how I knew to ask these questions. I guess I just retained this stuff, between that and my like years and years of business experience up to that point. And, trying to put the pieces together. So, it was kind of then that the light bulb went off for me, like, wow, like here's where I can, marry my passion for music and help artists try and have, careers or sustainable careers, like doing what they love. So I promised myself when I got out of grad school that I would focus on music, and I started taking guitar lessons. I formed my management company. I took some classes at Berklee College of Music in artist management and music industry entrepreneurship. And I kind of found that I knew most of it already, but I really just had wanted to solidify the industry part of it. And so I created my management company and Focus Artist Management. And then I got my first artist because my ex-boyfriend's brother knew that I wanted to be a manager and that his friend wanted to have an original music career. And we started working together. And that was when I never treated it as a hobby. I kind of threw myself in full time, and I could because I had another paying career that, like I could travel and go to conferences, and, I just started building my network that way. And, we made some pretty great strides with him. But the most important thing that I realized during that time was that, the branding of an artist and the merchandise, which is kind of the physical manifestation of the brand, was really the key to at least his revenue at his stage, because he was playing at restaurants and small gigs and things like that. And, like places that didn't necessarily pay for the gig. And I was sitting there with, spreadsheets and Word documents and PayPal printouts and trying to figure out what was going on in the merch business. Like what I knew that it was lucrative. I mean, you invest $5 in something and you can sell it for 20 and you put $15 in your pocket. Like obviously that's at the most basic point that you can get with it. But I mean, you can't make that kind of profit anywhere else, like being an artist, and like where you could see that money. And so, I said to myself as a accountant, like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not loving trying to figure out what's going on here, like putting all of these pieces together. Like, I can imagine that artists, especially those who are doing it themselves, are, they're probably just not even keeping track of what they're doing because it's so difficult. Like, there's so many pieces to put together. And, my accounting mind and, my using like technology, like other programs from other businesses, like, like real estate programs, QuickBooks, things that kept track of assets. There's no reason why when you make that sale, there can't be something that records the sale, reduces the inventory, and spits out a report that says what you sold. And so I held on to the idea for about a year or so. And the company that I was working for got bought and decided to outsource my department. And they were like, we have a job for you at the company we're outsourcing to. And I said, I'm not doing that. And I came into some money through an investment that I had with my firm. And, it was kind of, everything was glaring to me at that point. Like, you've wanted to be in music full time for the longest time. You were trying to figure out how you could do that, how you could be impactful. Because to be honest with you, I was sitting there every day at that point. It's like, with the music door or, with any kind of passion, once you open that door a little bit, like, you can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
So there was no going back. Like, there was no forgetting about artist management or forgetting about artists or forgetting about music and just going back to being full-time in commercial real estate or, that was never happening. It's like there was no running back. So I was kind of like, okay, you have the idea. It doesn't really exist, not for the levels of artists that you're looking at trying to help. You now have the money, and now your place of employment that you dedicated your life to for 14 years pretty much pulled the rug out from under you. And so it's now or never.
Yeah.
And so I found, through some other music associations I had made, who were also looking at making an app. I met the original developers for MerchCat, and in October, just about 4 years ago, we packed up our office closed it up here in Westchester, and I never went back.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
tell me about MerchCat. What does it offer? How's it different from other, merchandise sites? Because now there's a bunch of them out there. So how does it work basically? Like, what's the premise of it?
The primary thing for people to understand that is that MerchCat is for the live show. So there's only one other product that helps artists manage inventory at live shows, and that's At Venue. At Venue, while it's an amazing product, it was made for artists who are at the level of big venues that are pulling in with trailers and, have multiple things going on. So it was really made for an artist that has a team. And so my goal was to create something that an artist themselves could use or their team could use. So to be intuitive on the front end and informative on the back end, all the while, like, keeping the artist user in mind, so as not to, turn them off or confuse them or, kind of deter them from this very important part of their business. So, we have a clean user interface. It's really simple. If they're already using Square, it's like 2 more taps once the inventory has been entered, like when you're at your show, like standing at your merch table. So it's easy. I wanted the price point to be accessible. So it's $7.99 a month or $84.99 a year. It's some people think that it's priced too low. I think that it's priced just right for the audience that I
Yeah.
was looking to help. And
So an artist is touring and they say, I want to sell merch. So we go to, is it merchcat.com?
yeah,
So they go to merchcat.com, they sign up for $7.99 a month or 84 for the year. And then what? Like walk me through the process as an artist. Like what does this all look like for them? When they're using it, like when they're optimizing this?
right. So, ideally you would already have your merchandise. If you don't, you need to get some. We can also help with that too. I mean, it's something else that we've added to our ecosystem. But once you have your merchandise and you download MerchCat, you would just log in, you would enter your inventory. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just you would enter the size, the quantity that you have on hand, the name of it, and then you would upload a picture. And once all of your inventory is uploaded, you can import your shows from Bandsintown. So you would enter all of your shows so we could track the sales by show for you. And then the day of your show, we also have a Google lookup. So if you don't use Bandsintown, you can also manually enter your shows. And then the day of your show, you would just open up that. You would open up that show. You would go to that show date in our shows component, and all of your inventory would be there for that show. And now we have count in and count out. So you would just count in. It'll give you the counts of everything that you have on hand, and you accept or you can edit it. And then you're ready for business. Customer comes up, walks up, says, I want a large red shirt. You would find large red shirt, hit it. It opens up the PayPal or Square gateway. You either swipe the card or type in what they gave you in cash. It tells you what change to give. Or if you swipe the card, it'll process, and then you're done. So at the end of your show, you would count out your inventory. You can physically count it out. We give you the counts. So if you want to check what you have on hand physically, you can check it to what's in the system, and you can adjust it if it needs to be adjusted. If you gave something away and you forgot to record it, or it got super busy and you wanted to ignore MerchCat for a minute and just, kind of do your transactions. I don't recommend that. I think that if people are already there and you're in the middle of a transaction, I know it feels like stressful in the moment, but they're already there. They're going to wait, those couple of seconds. And, the people that are waiting online might not want to wait, but the person that you have in front of you is going to wait for you to complete that transaction. So
Yeah.
once that's done, and you count out, basically you would just run your reports when you're ready to look at them and see what you did, and it'll tell you what you sold at the show. It has a list of all the items sold, so it's really your venue settlement report. But we also have real-time inventory reports, so we tell you what you have left on hand in a report for every item. We keep track of sales, so we have your total sales to date. We have kind of like accounting periods, so 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, year, and lifetime. So you could see, like, from your time that you started using MerchCat, how much merchandise you've sold. We have a per cart amount, so you could see what your average customer is spending in a transaction.
Cool.
And we have a show list of where you can compare each show. So you can look at one show and say, at the Beacon Theater, I sold, $5,000 worth of merchandise, but at the Capitol Theater in Portchester, I only sold 1,000. And, just looking at it at a glance and, having those metrics next to each other kind of would prompt you to say, okay, what happened at the Capitol Theater? Did we not have merchandise? Did we not tell people we had merchandise?
Yeah. And what did happen, and look at what worked and do more of that, and look at what didn't work and do less of that, which is something I say all the time on this podcast. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm like, oh, I want to go on tour just so I could use this, because I feel like, so someone that has merch to sell, so two identical bands, one, everything is the same about them except one is using MerchCat and one is just using their PayPal or Stripe and typing things in manually. They're not getting the reports. They have to generate those manually. You're not necessarily seeing pictures, and you just get so much more data, right? Is that?
Well, yeah, it's the data out. I mean, it's the organization, it's the data output.
Yep.
And and the accountability, having those metrics there in your face. You'd be like, oh, like we're killing it in merch sales. Oh, it felt like we were, but then when you look at it, you're like, really we're not, because
Right.
we started out on this tour with 500 shirts, and we still have 400 left, and like we're 90% through our tour, and only have like whatever 3 shows left. Like you can it's accountability to yourself.
Yeah.
But you also need those metrics, because as you go on in your career and you're trying to get other stakeholders attracted to you, that's going to be one of the questions that they ask, because everybody knows how lucrative of a revenue stream merchandise is. So, if you don't know, I would say like probably the biggest difference between someone using MerchCat and someone not is, one, the one using it is going to know what they're selling, and like what their sales number is, not just how much volume, but also in dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're running out of inventory, that inventory report is telling you, what your fans are buying and what you have left. If you show up at your show with nothing to sell, you're definitely leaving money on the table. So the band, they may see that they only have 1 shirt left, but the band that's using MerchCat is going to be able to, if they're looking at it each time, they're going to be able to see when they're running out of stuff.
Yeah.
And then prepare for that, either call up your merch manufacturer and reorder, or, kind of do something to kind of compensate for the fact, be prepared that when somebody comes to your table, you already know what you do or don't have, and then maybe have a suggestive sell in its place, instead of just kind of like, oh yeah, we don't have any more of that.
Yeah. Knowing is so powerful. And then being able to like express that too from stage. Like we have this, we're doing a deal on this. Like we have these set that, like you have to let people know that exists back there. And like, if there's a line, that's an amazing thing. Like have another teammate or bandmate or super fan, like go through that line and be like, you're on the email list, right? You're on the email list, right? Like keep people like interested and like doing something.
Yeah. With that,
Are there,
we sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm like, this is the perfect segue into it. But we just released a fan side app. So we released a direct to fan app that is attached to the artist tool. So with that fan app, fans can go in and buy directly in the app and pick it up at the merch table, or ship it to home if the artist wants to engage in the shipping. So
wow.
that could help them, the artist could set up a separate line, or have somebody going over to them, like anybody order on MerchCat Fan. The artist can actually tell, because they get a notification that somebody ordered on MerchCat Fan, but like, hey, so-and-so, come up, and just hand it off. Also, they could leave their store open beyond the show, so it can double as their web store if they don't have one. It helps capitalize on secondhand reach. So if I went to a show and you really wanted to make it, but you couldn't, and you heard that we were selling new merch that night, you can go in and buy that merch, that's being sold at the show, and you would have it shipped to your home.
Cool. So you can use it, like embed it into your webpage, so it becomes part of your sales page on your website?
It's actually a mobile app right now. So
mobile, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So basically the artist connects everything through their MerchCat app, and then the fan sees their own interface, and it's an open marketplace. So if you go in there looking for one band, you might discover another band, and each artist has a profile that has their shows and their merchandise. And then we have more info, so the fan can explore beyond there. Like if they're not familiar with you, or they're just like, oh, I want to hear that song, like they can get to the Spotify or the socials and post. And then the other great thing about the fan app is you can share on socials. So if I bought something, I could share it in my socials, on my Instagram, on my Facebook. You can text it to somebody like, hey, look at this cool merch that I just bought. But that social sharing is, I think, a great aspect to have. So it really just helps artists capitalize further on what's going on at the live show. And that was intentional, because there's a lot of e-commerce tools out there, but they're all geared towards online. 80% of merch sales occur at the live show. So we really wanted to provide artists a way to capitalize bigger at the live show and beyond.
Got it.
And it's connected. So there's one place for inventory tracking and sales. And we also collect the fan emails for purchases through the fan app.
Got it. I love that 80% of merch sales happen at the live show. So make the most of that. Like that's a huge opportunity. So fabulous.
Really exist.
Yeah. Do you have any like last minute thoughts or tips, or definitely don't do this for bands that are performing live and have merch to sell?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing I'll say is, and this really just speaks to the physical side of merchandise. I mean, all right, let's rewind a second. Number one, sell merch, because if you're not selling merch, you're definitely leaving money on the table. Everybody wants to buy something. Fans want to support you. If you're not giving them things to buy, you're probably upsetting them and you're leaving money on the table. And so definitely do not sell merch.
Yeah, got it.
But as far as, the physical merch side, I find that a lot of artists make the mistake of kind of being self-indulgent or not really being thoughtful about the products that they're making. And, just think about the functionality of something. Usually if it's something somebody can use, they'll buy it. So, and think seasonality, like right now, at least here on the East Coast, we're getting into the colder weather. Like now's a great time for hoodies and beanies. And, so put the thought into it. It's almost like a retail business. So, it goes in cycles and it goes, by what people would wear. So, if your audience is 60-year-old white middle-aged men, do not make a neon t-shirt,
Congress? Just
Is that a band?
No, I said Congress.
Oh, well, Congress, yes. Would our Congress wear neon t-shirts? I don't really know if we really want to address those people, but anyway, I don't want to get political. So yeah, just be thoughtful about the stuff that you're making, like, and think about, not just, it's kind of like, not only what you would wear, but would you wear this if somebody else was selling it? And then, I think the seasonality, being able to capitalize on different points in time. And, I don't know, if you want to make a Christmas sweater or sweatshirt or t-shirt, go ahead. I wouldn't invest too much money in that. I would say for artists who are starting out, you can start small. Like there are vendors out there who have small, who will do small quantities at good price points. And we actually work with some of them. So, come talk to us if you don't have merch and you think that there's a big barrier to entry because of the dollar factor. Like you don't need $1,000 to start a merch business.
Can you share some of the ones that you recommend?
Well, we actually have our own that we like go through us.
Oh, got it. Okay, cool.
And
great.
We're working with them to kind of
awesome.
I'm very protective about that because I just feel like we're putting our name forth. So, and we get asked the question all the time. So we're building it into our ecosystem.
Well, I think that's great. And also having like a one-stop place, like the Merch Cat is where I go to develop my merch, to sell my merch, and then to organize all of the merch and the data that I get from the merch to
and the fan engagement. I mean, and that's really the whole system that we're building, for artists. Where do I get merch? How do I sell it and manage it? And how do I further engage my fans with it? So
I love that. Oh, this is so cool. I'm so excited. So merchcat.com, you guys, just if you're touring, sign up. Like this is so important. And I think, there's some good numbers that support having merch at a live show. People are so excited and want to take home a souvenir. And that is the moment when you get them.
Exactly.
So, and that's the moment when they're going to share with their friends, and to have an app to do that, I think that's invaluable. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I'm so excited. I want to go on tour so I can. So Vanessa, do you have any special codes for the Key Conversation listeners?
I actually do. A code just for your listeners. 30 days on us. And they would go to web.merchcat.com. You could also get there from our merchcat.com website if you go to Merchcat app. And it'll ask you, there's a place to check the box. It says have a promo code. And then the code is KEYPRO, KEYPRO. And that'll give them 30-day look for free on us.
Awesome.
So really, there's no excuses now.
Now there's no excuses. So key as in Key Conversations, pro as in promo. So KEYPRO is the promo code. Go to web.merchcat.com to access that promo. So go check it out. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome, especially if you have shows coming up. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I just want to say this. I also appreciate that you were really working for artists. Like I really get that's what you and the company are doing. And as an independent artist, I appreciate that.
Well,
So,
thank you. It's great to hear because we
yeah.
need to keep going and making it better and, more efficient. And I listen to what people ask for, when we first started, we didn't have the bands in town import and people asked for that. We had PayPal, not Square. Artists asked for that. So we really try and listen to what people are asking for and accommodate that because we want everyone to have a successful merch business.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Okay.
Please don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and YouTube if you like this podcast. Musicians like you keep me inspired and motivated. And for doing that, I'm offering you my Mastering Email 12-page workbook. It's packed with valuable exercises and information to get clear on implementing and mastering your email list strategy. This will help you figure out the best kind of platform for your specific goals, including a 7-step process to build, grow, engage, and monetize your list, all while feeling authentic and on brand with your music. Get your Mastering Email workbook at inthekey.co/mastering-email. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Key Conversations. The theme song on this podcast was provided by yours truly. If you're interested to find out more about my composing and songwriting projects, go to inthekey.co/Cheryl. If you're a musician looking to get some real results for your music career, then head to inthekey.co/results, where I've created a bunch of different kinds of resources just for you. Key Conversations is sponsored in part by Bandzoogle. They make it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Their step-by-step system gets you online in minutes, and you can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and customize them with their point-and-click editor. All of the features you can imagine for a possible website are built in. So, because you're a Key Conversations podcast listener, you get a special month free trial plus 15% off if you do decide to sign up, just for you. Go to inthekey.co/make-a-site to get the offer.